Harry and Ron followed her out the door and set out for the House of Slytherin. Harry pulled the blanket around himself and told everyone that he was invisible. Ron carried the map and Hermione led the way. This left her with a lot of time to think about her situation. I'm breaking into a biologist house with my probation officer, who thinks he's a superhero, and his druggy friend who may or may not be on probation as well. And that's not even addressing any wizardry, she murmured. They arrived at the basement stairs and began to descend them. Then they traveled down a dark hallway. The ceiling was high with a small window above them at every 10th step. The ceiling curved at the top and sent golden rays down from the windows, but it didn't provide a lot of light for the grimy green hall. They walked in the center of the hallway, hoping not to run into anything hiding in the dark. They continued to walk and saw a book of matches and a candle illuminated by the window above it. "Ooh, fire!" Harry said before approaching the matches. Hermione rushed after him and took the matches from him. Then she took out a match and was about to strike it, but she was interrupted by Ron. "I don't know, I have a bad feeling about this. A glowing book of matches? Seems sketchy." "Maybe," Hermione wondered. But of course they would put the matches and a candle in a spot where they could see them. "In the middle of a long hallway?" Ron challenged. "They could have... or maybe..." She looked at them in the light of the window. "They don't seem dangerous. And there couldn't be a spell on them." "Are you sure?" Harry asked. "Wizards can put spells on anything. I should know." "Like tables to make them into cages?" Hermione asked. "Exactly," Harry replied. "I think we're good then." Hermione struck the match and lit the candle. "No explosions so far." "Explosions?" Harry repeated. "Is the candle going to explode?" Ron asked. Hermione rolled her eyes. "I was exaggerating. There's no way this candle will explode. Unless, of course, someone coated it in gasoline." Harry and Ron gasped. "Relax. If something was going to happen, it would have by now." They continued to walk until Harry brought something to their attention. "I have to go to the bathroom." "Is it an emergency?" Hermione asked. "No, I can wait." They kept venturing down the long hallway. "What's the plan?" Hermione inquired in the flickering orange light of the candle. Harry bent his arms. "We break into Slytherin, locate Rock, and then steal him back." "How do we steal him back?" Ron asked. "I thought we'd ask Mud. She seems to know a lot about theft and robbery," Harry said with an evil gleam. "I'm not a robber!" Hermione shouted. "Then tell me why you're on probation," Harry directed. "Okay, fine, yes, I attempted to rob the candy car, but that's not me. I'm not a thief or a robber." The candlelight showed her sorrowful expression. Ron was about to make another joke, but he backed off after realizing this conversation wasn't quite as funny to her. "Oh, shoot, I forgot to take some drugs this morning," Ron said instead. "That's a good thing. You'll be wise enough to remain drug-free for the rest of your long and happy life," Harry said in his superhero voice. "You're not addicted, are you?" Hermione asked earnestly. "No, that's not it." His voice trailed off. They approached a large wooden door at the end of the hallway. Hermione stepped towards it and turned the doorknob. She pulled the door open with a creak, and the three of them went through the doorway. They walked down a set of spiral stone stairs that seemed to go on forever. The staircase didn't have a wall around the center, so you could look to see lower floors. "How deep underground is Slytherin?" Hermione grumbled. "I'd rather jump down the center than walk down all these stairs," Harry whined as he moved towards the center of the staircase. Hermione grabbed his arm and pulled him back. "Trust me, you don't." "Why not?" "You need a broomstick to fly, otherwise you'll just fall," Hermione replied. "Oh," Harry responded, a little disappointed. "I hope there's a bathroom at the bottom." They kept moving and soon reached the bottom of the staircase. They entered a new hallway, though this one was a short dead end. They began to search for a door. "Do you think Rock is okay?" Harry asked. Instead of making fun of him, Hermione decided to respond with kindness. "I'm sure he's fine. We'll find him, wherever he is." "Yeah, then we'll make sure he never gets stolen again," Ron said, also trying to console his friend. "Thanks," Harry said quietly. "Now, where is the entrance?" Hermione asked, bringing the candlelight around the walls of the hallway. There were no doors, only the staircase that brought them there. "There's a painting," Ron informed, feeling around a wall near the staircase. Hermione walked over to view the painting. The candlelight showed a painting of a snake. "What could the password be?" Harry whispered. Hermione looked all around the painting. "Hinges?" she mumbled. She went to the other side and pulled the left edge of the painting. The framed art opened like a door and revealed a button behind it. She hesitated before pressing the button. A moment passed before the stone wall separated and created a new passageway. They took a few steps before the candlelight illuminated another door. Hermione opened it and they entered the Slytherin common room. The walls of the room were the same grimy green color of the hallways. There was a fireplace in the middle of the room with a snake carved into the stone above the mantel. The furniture looked old and uncomfortable. Suddenly, someone appeared behind the front desk. The three were startled by this, as the original plan was to not be seen. The same boy with light blonde hair they met on the train was standing in front of them. They couldn't find any words to explain what they were doing there. "Welcome," the boy said with his eyes wide. Huh? Hermione asked, surprised of how happy the boy was. You must be here to see our snake habitats. Oh, that makes me so happy. Welcome to the Slytherin Snake Research and Habitats. Definitely, citizen. That is exactly why we're here. We are not planning to steal anything at all, Harry announced. Hermione punched him in the arm to get him to stop talking. It's our friend's birthday, and we decided to take him to see some snakes. They're his favorite animal. Hermione gestured to Ron. Ron reluctantly played along. Uh-huh. They are indeed. They're just so, I can't even find the words to describe how cool they are. And she loves snakes, too. She just loves to cuddle with them. Yes, Hermione replied while scowling at Ron well outside the snake boy's view. Cuddling with snakes is my favorite activity. Unfortunately, the snake cuddling room is being cleaned today, the blonde boy informed. Well, she can come back another day, Ron smirked. Of course. The blonde boy walked across the room to get some supplies. Guys, Harry said quietly. What is it? Hermione asked. I really have to go to the bathroom. Ron and Hermione glanced around the room for a bathroom. They noticed signs hanging from the ceiling directing visitors to different areas. That one says public bathroom, Ron pointed. Harry scurried off in the direction of the sign. They stood for a moment waiting for Harry. We need to use fake names, Ron whispered. Why? Hermione asked. Because this is Slytherin! If they have our names, who knows what they'll do? People in Slytherin aren't excluded from our classes. He probably knows our names already. Harry hasn't learned your name, and he's known you personally for the entire school year. They curtailed their conversation as the snake boy walked back towards them. He handed out some pamphlets and maps. My name is Draco Malfoy, and I'll be guiding you through our snake habitats today. Thank you, Ron said. I'm Dawn, this is Hermione, and our other friend Derry is in the bathroom. Malfoy left to sit at the front desk while they waited for Harry. Hermione? Hermione whispered. Your name was weird in its original form. Hermione isn't any weirder. Harry returned from the bathroom and rejoined the group. Hello, citizens! Ready to go? They heard a voice ask. Ah! Hermione jumped before looking behind her. Malfoy had approached the group so quickly and quietly that they didn't notice him. Oops. I didn't mean to startle you. That's okay. Can we start the tour? Hermione asked. They set out to look at the snakes. They went through a doorway and entered a large room. The walls were lined with habitats. Each breed of snake had its own habitat. The surroundings of the breeds greatly differed. Some habitats had special heating or cooling systems to make the climate better for the snakes. Other habitats had different vegetation. The room had many biology students walking around and observing the slithering snakes. They all wore white lab coats and most held clipboards. The rest were in habitats weighing or feeding the snakes. Malfoy started talking, but no one listened. They weren't there to see the snakes, after all. Malfoy bounced around the room with the three in tow. He droned on and on. Blah, 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 feed them 3 times a day. Blah, 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 super scaly. Blah, 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 glass doesn't usually disappear, but we can't say it's never happened. Eventually, Malfoy stopped talking and asked if anyone had any questions. I do, Hermione volunteered. This is quite extravagant. Who organizes this whole thing? That would be the head of the biology program, Professor Snape. Any other questions? Harry was the next to speak. Where do you keep your valuables, citizen? Hermione and Ron's eyes widened as they heard Harry's question. Ha ha! That's such a funny joke! Right, Derry? She asked, nudging Harry. Yes, Harry responded. Oh, I certainly enjoy comedy, but I would hate for someone to steal from us. It wouldn't end well for anyone. Snakes are very protective of their things. Well, if we know Derry, we know that he makes jokes that shouldn't be taken seriously in any capacity. Ron said with the same nervous laugh as Hermione. Yeah, definitely, Dawn. Remember at the funeral he made that joke and then no one ever said anything about it or even remembered what he said? I can remember that, but I definitely can't remember what lame joke he said, Ron replied. There was an intense silence before Malfoy asked if they wanted to see a snake feeding. They agreed and followed him to a habitat. They stood at the glass and listened as Malfoy explained. You see, when the snakes are hungry, they will simply start looking for small animals, such as mice, rabbits, and badgers. Once they find their prey, they curl into a coil. After they target their prey, they spring and wrap their long, scaly body around it, slowly suffocating the animal. Then they swallow their prey whole and digest it slowly. Terrified, they backed away from the glass of the habitat before hearing a loud thud. A door flew open, and a man with longish black hair and black eyes drifted around the snake habitats and down the aisles of the room. A small bat sat on his shoulder. "I heard we have guests." His bored, monotone voice echoed around the room as every student stopped what they were doing to hear what he was saying. "Yes, we do," Malfoy said as the black-haired man walked towards them. "I'm Professor Severus Snape," he introduced. "I teach these prestigious students about these slithering creatures." Ron attempted to introduce himself. "Did you tell them how much venom our basilisks have?" Snape asked Malfoy. "Yes, sir." "Did you show them how snakes devour their prey?" "Of course, sir." "Did you show them how protective snakes are to their kin?" "Not yet, sir." Snape turned towards Hermione, Harry, and Ron. "Tisk, tisk. Get to it, then." The three followed Malfoy into another room. It was a quiet place. The room was much smaller than the one they were just in. The walls were a gross green color, and it had a smaller habitat with several small white eggs and a grown snake sitting in a nest. Two students watched over the nest and took notes of what the snake was doing. There was a faint sound in the room. "Is that jazz music?" Ron asked. "Yes," one of the students answered. "We're gathering data about the effects of jazz music on baby snakes." "It's just one experiment. We are doing a lot more groundbreaking research in addition to this," Malfoy informed. "Do students only learn from observations done here, or do they also do bookwork?" Hermione asked. "We also learn from our magnificent library," Malfoy said as he led everyone into a large room that was lined with books. "I only read comic books," Harry said loudly. "Then perhaps we should go back to the snake exhibits?" Malfoy suggested. "Oh, Derry doesn't know what he's saying," Hermione started. "He actually loves reading. In fact, if we could, we'd like to read here on our own for a while." "Of course," Malfoy answered before he promptly left the room, letting the door fall shut. "What are we doing here, Mud?" Harry asked. They would never show us a boring library on their tour. We would have been stuck wherever snakes are. Now, we get some time to investigate a place where students spend a lot of their time. And we're not stuck with a guide, either. "There's that robber wisdom coming through for us," Harry exclaimed. "Again, I'm not a robber." She walked to a locked door and pulled a bobby pin from behind her ear. "I didn't know you keep bobby pins in your hair," Harry commented as Hermione eyed the lock. "Yeah, in case I have to pick a—" "I'm not a robber!" Using the pin, she started picking the lock. "We haven't had any time to investigate this room. We're already leaving?" Ron asked. "Yes, no one visits the library, not by choice anyway. And if we, Gryffindors, got into the library that easily, it wouldn't be a good place to hide stolen goods or valuable items." "Mud, you could write a book with all this robber knowledge." Hermione groaned as she opened the door. "I'm not a robber, I'm just cultured." She tucked the bobby pin back in her hair. "Cultured in robbery," Ron teased. They walked into another hallway, happy to see it was well lit with actual lights. The walls were lined with shiny gray stone, and there was a green rug extending the entire distance of the hallway. They traveled around for a while and started seeing other students. They mostly saw people wearing lab coats, but at one point they saw a group of people wearing green and silver snake costumes. They walked in a single-file line and seemed to be hissing. Hermione instructed Harry and Ron to keep their heads down and avoid eye contact as they passed by. They continued to aimlessly walk around the halls of Slytherin. Then someone ducked out of a room and appeared in front of them. "Oh, hi!" they greeted. "Hello, citizen," Harry replied. The student took off running. "Let's follow him!" Ron exclaimed as they started chasing after him. They were on his tail and were led to a dormitory. It looked just like Harry and Ron's except for the color palette. This room was silver and gray, while their dormitory was scarlet and gold. They entered the room, making the boy they followed even more frightened. "Have no fear, citizen! We wish no harm to you!" Something on the dresser caught Harry's attention. It was Rock. "You stole Rock! I will end you!" Hermione and Ron pulled Harry back and tried to keep him from hurting the boy. "Why'd you steal Rock?" Ron asked. "I'm sorry!" the boy squeaked. "Someone dared me to steal something from a Gryffindor dormitory. If I had known the rock was this important, I would have taken something else. I love snakes, but everyone was making fun of me because I'm not a snake expert yet. I just wanted to fit in." "No excuses, prepare to die!" Harry yelled as he tried to get his wand. Hermione grabbed the twig from him. "Murder is not the answer. You've got Rock back, and I'm sure he's learned his lesson. I have! I'll never steal anything ever again! The boy cried. Ron dragged Harry out of the room with Rock. Stay out of trouble, okay? Hermione directed before leaving the room. They found their way back to the library and then went to the Slytherin common room. They found Malfoy at the front desk. We've got to go, but thanks for the tour, Ron said. Come back any time. Tell your friends. Hermione retrieved the candle from where she left it and lit it again. They exited through the stone passageway and went down the hall. They climbed the spiral staircase and started walking down the long hallway. I can't believe Rock was actually in Slytherin, Hermione reflected. Of all the places and all the people who could have stolen him. Jerk-faced kid stole Rock, Harry grumbled. Cheer up, Harry. Rock's here now, isn't he? Ron said, trying to make Harry less grumpy. You're right, he is, Harry said as he looked at his pet. Is anyone going to tell me why I was being called Derry earlier? I'll tell you when you learn my name, Hermione hissed. I guess I'll never know, Harry replied. It's because we had to use fake names. We all replaced the first letter of our names with D's, Ron answered. Ron, now he has no motivation to learn my name, Hermione scolded. Harry shook his head. But I already know your name. It's Mud. See, he's never gonna learn, Ron said. They continued walking to Gryffindor Tower, but were stopped and whisked into the cafeteria by a large group of students. There was excitement in the air as everyone sat down with their house. Soon the chatter of the crowd calmed down and they watched Dumbledore enter the room. He was smoothing his beard and adjusting his clothes. He stood in the center of the room and began to speak. My apologies for my appearance. I just fell down the stairs. Again. Anyway, today is the long-awaited House Championship. Most of the first-year students probably don't know what it is since we had to cut its marketing budget. The House Championship is our annual award ceremony for the house with the most house points. The winning team will get the House Cup. This year is the first year that Slytherin is out of the competition. They're too studious. They've won every year since Hogwarts was established. Dumbledore continued on to talk about the history of the award. I hope we win, Harry whispered. I don't see how, Hermione whispered back. Our year doesn't even know what a house point is. Maybe a point is equal to a kilo of drugs, Ron suggested in a whisper. In that case, I'd be the winner for sure. Another professor rolled a snare drum to Dumbledore. The award goes to... Dumbledore picked up the drumsticks and started a drum roll. Hufflepuff! He handed the award to the head of the house as they cheered. Maybe next year, Hermione consoled. Definitely next year, Harry exclaimed. I'll do anything to win that award for Gryffindor. Dumbledore went over some of the things Hufflepuff did to earn their points. Harry listened carefully and started grasping the idea of house points. They're given to you if you do good things. Harry's a superhero. This'll be easy. His mistake was not bragging about all the things he did this year. He needs to report them and get points. He also needs to do at least one really good thing. What could it be, though? Everyone was happily talking and discussing their plans to win the award next year. Dumbledore called for everyone's attention again. Ahem. I was just informed of some terrible news. Can someone dim the lights? Since the lights could not be dimmed, the room became pitch black. Well, this isn't good. Could I have a spotlight? A few professors turned on flashlights and pointed them at Dumbledore. Ah, that's better. Students of Hogwarts, your fellow student Dudley Dursley of Ravenclaw is dead. A few gasps were heard from people who surely did not know him, though even for those who had known him, it was still shocking news. Hermione glared suspiciously at Harry, who quickly noticed her stare. I didn't do it! Ron matched Hermione's suspicious glare and aimed it at her. You didn't like Dudley either. You're as much of a suspect as Harry. I wouldn't kill him. I wasn't the one fighting him in the middle of a Quidditch match. So? Ron asked. By that logic, Dudley would have killed Harry, especially since Dudley was the one who started the fight. That doesn't make any sense. Guys, Harry said, trying to get their attention. None of us did it. None of us would. The point is, someone or something killed Dudley. Whether it was an accident, an illness, or a murder, it will give us a ton of points if we solve this. You're right, Hermione started. Let's see if we can find a crime scene. The three noticed the food around them and remembered that they had to stay. They remained seated and Dumbledore spoke again. The train will be coming tomorrow morning. See you all next year. All the students of Hogwarts started eating. When the meal was complete and their stomachs were full, Harry and friends tried to escape the cafeteria. They were too slow and the crowd swallowed them as a second dessert. Since there wasn't enough time to pack and look for a crime scene, they decided to solve the mystery next year. The next morning, they brought their trunks to the train station and put them on the baggage car. Harry brought Rock with him as carry-on. They all sat in the train car and talked. It was a lot different from when they were first together on this train. Everything started when Hermione tried to rob the candy car. Hagrid was right. She didn't want candy. The group she had been talking to wanted candy. Just like the boy who stole Harry's rock, she just wanted some friends. She tried to deny it, but that's exactly what she got. Even though Harry and Ron are eccentric at best, she'll finally admit it. Ron and Harry are not only her friends, but her best friends. Fade out. Roll credits. The end.